This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Burgamy.
Yes, every week since 1966, 56 years to be exact, and as we've been saying since day one, so glad you could join us for another edition of the Farm Monitor. Ray DeLessio at your service.
And I'm Kenny Burgamy. Obviously, Ray and I haven't been here for all those years, but keeping with tradition, we've got a great program lined up for you this week. Straight ahead, those watermelons you've been seeing at the store, well, a lot of hard work has gone into getting them there. You'll hear from one producer on why the scorching heat as of late pushed up the timeline for the harvesting. Also on the program, with storm season upon us, the signs you need to look for if you suspect that one or multiple trees on your property are in danger of falling. Plus,
well, everybody, Ranger Nick coming up a little bit later. I'm hanging out with some fisheries biologists at the University of Georgia who are not only sampling fish in this creek, but are looking out for aquatic nuisance species, which includes one from local pet stores. That and so much more starts right now on the Farm Monitor.
Well, this time of year means sweet, juicy watermelons, something producers are harvesting as we speak. Our John Holcomb traveled to Crisp County and spoke to one grower about this year's crop and why the extreme temperatures prove both beneficial and detrimental.
Nothing says summertime quite like a big, juicy, sweet watermelon. Thankfully, Georgia has plenty of producers that grow them, pack them, and get them into stores for people to enjoy during the summer months. One operation that's busy doing just that is Global Produce Sales down in Cordele, as they're right in the middle of harvesting, something they're no doubt excited to see after a year of such uncertainty.
It's been challenging this year. We've, like everybody else, we're fighting increased costs and inflation. The inflationary pressure of diesel and fertilizer and seed costs and everything else going up. And it's just one more factor to work into to our program, along with our normal challenges, including, from insects and disease and weather. And so it keeps things exciting for sure.
According to Roten, however, with this year being such a hot and dry one, pests and disease haven't been that much of an issue.
Disease pressure hasn't been anything out of the ordinary with like you said, with the heat and the dry weather. Most of the fungal diseases have been relatively easy to keep under control, but here in South Georgia, with most of the crops being under overhead irrigation, we're adding the moisture on top of the plant ourselves, so it's still something that you have to fight and stay on top of. Insect pressure hasn't been terrible. We've seen a little bit of mite damage in some of the fields where, in hot, dry weather, their populations will increase.
In fact, Roten says that based on the crop they've actually been able to harvest, it's turned out to be a decent one.
I'd say overall, our overall yields have been pretty good. It's not been a bumper crop, but it's been good, average or better. But the heat and the dryness, it has, like I said, it's accelerated the harvest. And these last couple of weeks where it's been 100 degrees every day, we've seen a lot of losses due to the sun, just the sunburn out in the field. It makes the watermelons unmarketable.
And to add insult to injury, Roten believes that due to inflation, demand is down as people have to make tough decisions in the grocery store.
It seems like the demand has been a little bit soft. I think, as I mentioned before, we're getting some pressure from a slowdown in the economy. People are having to make hard choices when they go to the grocery store on whether or not to buy bread and milk or fill up the gas tank of their car or get a watermelon. And unfortunately, I think, some of the fresh produce items are taking a hit because they're not a staple item in a lot of households. And people are just having to make those tough choices every day.
Reporting in Cordele for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
While rolling mountain ranges and scenic hiking trails might be the first thing that come to mind when talking about North Georgia, there is one agritourism destination that has really made a name for itself by providing some of the highest quality meats from beef to lamb. Damon Jones tells you why Mountain Valley Farm of Gilmer County has become a staple in the community exclusively through word of mouth.
Tucked away in the Blue Ridge Mountains, you'll find this unique agritourism destination best known for their hand-cut, grass-fed meats. It's why people from all over the state make the trip to Mountain Valley Farm, where they can find the type of beef quality not found at the grocery store.
You know where it was grown, you know how it's been handled, you know what's in it, what's not in it. It's very humanely raised. It doesn't get any better than growing out on grass like this versus a feedlot somewhere in Colorado or Texas. And that's where most of the grocery store beef comes from.
In addition to being of the highest quality, this beef is also dry aged for more than 20 days in order to enhance both the flavor and the tenderness. And while it is a more labor intensive and time consuming process, the end results justify the means.
It hangs at the butcher. They slaughter the cattle. It hangs at the butcher 20 to 28 days depending, and the carcass just shrinks. The flavor gets more intense. It's real meat. It's got real good beef flavor.
The crowds don't just come for the beef, as the Berkshire pork is also a big hit thanks to breeding that maximizes the flavor.
It's what was traditionally raised on farms. It's a Berkshire boar and a Hamp York sow, and it just a good lot of marbling. Whereas probably 25 years ago, the pork folks decided they wanted to be the other lean meat, and they bred a lot of the fat and the marbling out, which is the flavor. So that people say the best pork chop I've ever had. Just because you can see it in the meat and you can taste it.
While the beef and pork have been a staple on the menu since the beginning, there has recently been a new addition due to popular demand.
Well, that's what people wanted. And we've always raised our own hogs and our own beef. And it surprised me because people, do you have lamb? Do you have lamb? That went on for several years, and I thought, okay, and yeah, we have lamb.
And that demand has only increased over the years despite very little self-promotion. It's the reason the Wrights decided to open this farm store after selling their meats out of a lean-to shed for the first few years.
It was very tiny, and the response was just amazing. I said, uh-oh, it's time. So did the little store, and it's just grown exponentially. We don't advertise, it's just word of mouth. We welcome people. There's no charge to come and have a picnic, even if you don't need anything in the store. Just come out and peaceful and calm and see a working farm. It's kind of quiet this morning, but there's usually big tractors and things going by, and it's fun for the kids.
Reporting from Gilmer County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Hey everybody, Ranger Net coming up. You know, if you've got a freshwater aquarium at home and you're considering dumping it out in a local stream or river, think twice. I'll tell you why coming up.
There's a lot to learn about Georgia sweet corn. First cultivated by Native Americans more than 7,000 years ago, corn is now grown on every continent in the world except for Antarctica. Not all corn is the same. Sweet corn is a vegetable we buy and eat fresh from the farm. Field corn is a starchy grain like rice or wheat, used in breakfast cereals and baking. While field corn plants can grow up to 10 feet tall, sweet corn plants are several feet shorter. Corn is picky about soil. During the winter, the farmer must work compost into the soil to provide extra nutrients. Seeds are planted in the spring, 2 weeks after the last frost. Corn is planted in rows, with seeds about 4 to 6 inches apart. Later, the farmer will thin the new plants to increase the spacing 8 to 12 inches. Because the roots stay near the surface, corn needs regular watering to maintain consistent soil moisture, especially in dry conditions. Some types of corn can grow very fast. The crop might be ready for harvest in just 60 to 90 days. Sweet corn is a high-yield crop. 1 acre of land can produce up to 14,000 pounds of sweet corn. The pickers walk along in front of a machine that kind of looks like an airplane. They throw the ears of corn up to the packers above. A transport vehicle attaches and moves with the packers and is loaded with the filled crates of sweet corn as they move through the field. Did you know that an ear of corn always has an even number of rows? Sweet corn can be yellow or white in color. There are about 800 kernels on an average ear of corn, and there is 1 strand of silk for each kernel. Sweet corn is a gluten-free, cholesterol-free food with natural sugars and starches. It is moderately high in calories, but much lower than field corn and other cereal grains. It's also a great source of A and C vitamins, and it contains healthy minerals, antioxidants, and dietary fiber. Fresh sweet corn is delicious in salads and recipes. Steamed or grilled, you can eat it right off the cob. Remember to bring home some fresh Georgia sweet corn next time you go to the market.
Well, we've picked a nice warm day in Jackson County, Georgia to hang out along a creek, and you know, we've all been there. Maybe you've got an aquarium at home, a freshwater tank with some fish in it, and maybe you're at the point where I don't really know what to do with these little guys, these little fish anymore. Could I release them into a creek or stream like this, native in Georgia, and be done with it? Well, I want you to think again, and I'm going to introduce you to a person that will encourage you to think again about releasing fish into a place like this, and that's Sarah McNair. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Ranger Nick.
Good to be with you today. Now listen, Sarah McNair is a graduate student in the Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources and has had to put up with me in a class or two, so I appreciate you still wanting to hang out together.
Absolutely.
Sarah, we're out here, we've got some scientists behind us sampling fish.
Yes.
What are we looking for today? And how could this relate to a potentially non-native fish that we need to know about?
So today we are sampling Bear Creek. We are right below the Bear Creek water reservoir. We are looking at the overall fish community today, and we're hoping to not see any invasive fish, but that's not always going to be the case.
Not always, right?
Not
Especially
always.
we're dealing with folks out there that might have an aquarium.
Yes.
And I came to realize from Dr. Shelton, who we'll meet just in a second, that about 2 years ago, in a creek just outside of Athens, a fish called a weather loach,
Yes.
or a dojo loach, as might be known in the aquarium industry, was found in a local creek. And this is not a native fish, right?
It is not.
So it's supposed to be there.
Yes, they're native to East Asia, actually.
Okay, so why is that a problem for native fish like we might have here?
So particularly here in Georgia, we have a lot of state-threatened and otherwise endangered species, such as the Altamaha shiner, and places where we have found the weatherfish and dojo loach. These places also have the Altamaha shiner, and we're concerned that it may be consuming the eggs of that fish and also competing with them for food, as well as they just don't belong there and they can cause other disruptions.
So think about this non-native fish coming in, out-competing a native threatened species of fish and trying to understand that population distribution. That's what y'all are doing today, and what I want to do now is go to Dr. Jay Shelton, who we've seen on the segment before over the years, talk about how they're studying this dojo fish, this dojo loach, this weather loach that comes from aquarium stores that have been released and what impact it's having on communities. So let's go there next. Well, a regular to the show, Dr. Jay Shelton, good to be with you again, Doc. So Sarah was just talking about sampling native fish species in this creek. Why do that when what you're really interested in, it sounds like, is that weather loach?
Right. We are interested in the weather loach. What we need to do is to be able to assess the fish community as a whole, because what we're really interested in is all the parts and how they fit together. That tells us about the ecological health of this stream. So over the course of this study, we'll be comparing healthy fish communities where there are weather loaches and fish communities where there are no weather loaches to see if we see any differences between the two.
That's interesting. And you and I were talking before we got on camera together today about you can determine from a DNA standpoint where potentially a weather loach came from in terms of a pet store. Talk to us about this DNA piece.
Yeah, those are really, cutting edge new tools in our toolbox as resource managers in general, not just for fish, but it really is a valuable tool when we're trying to assess where it fits in with the other things. So we're sampling fish today, and we can get tissue from a fish, but all of us, every living thing sloughs DNA into the environment. So one of the things we're looking to do is see if we can do some investigative studies where we sample the water and see if there's eDNA from that species in it.
Wow, eDNA, environmental DNA. DNA. And just imagine how non-invasive that is to get a water sample to be able to say what was in this. Right. Talk about detective work. I mean, that's incredible.
Well, you know, these are new tools, and we're trying to investigate where they fit in with everything else that we already use. But wouldn't it be great if we could come out to a stream, take a sample of water, bring it back to the lab, do all the analysis, all the processing, and it would basically print off what we found there in terms of the various species of fish.
Interesting. And Dr. Shelton is leading the way in this with the Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources in determining some of this fishy activity that's going on here, Doc. Incredible stuff. I want to end it today by talking about what can you at home do if you happen to maybe find one of these fish. Where do we go from there? So let's go there next. Well, what you're looking at there, according to Dr. Shelton, is ideal weather loach habitat. You've got still water, barely moving, some coarse woody debris in there, and some leaves tied up in that. Very, very nice home for a weather loach. Now, Doc, if I've got something like that on my property, and I happen to go out there and I find what looks like we're seeing on the screen, that weather loach, what do I do?
Well, there's a big issue that we're really concerned about statewide and really nationally, and that's aquatic nuisance species, and the weather loach is one of those. So what do you do if you have something and you're not sure what it is, you want to get it identified, and you can contact your Georgia DNR, you can contact your county extension office, you can reach out to us. The best thing is to have a really good solid picture that we can use to help to ID it.
So kind of like citizen science work we talk a lot about with our smartphones. Take a picture, share it with a professional, and get it ID'd. And now, if you've got an aquarium at home, freshwater aquarium, got beautiful plants and fish in there, and you know you just don't want to take care of it any longer, we've talked about today how bad it is to release all that stuff into a local stream. What can I do with it if I don't release it?
Yeah, any type of aquarium, freshwater, saltwater, whether it's fish, whether it's plants, whether it's invertebrates like crayfish, please don't release them back into the environment. You have the potential to do so much harm, and you have very little likelihood that that animal is going to thrive in that environment. So what do? Again, contact your local DNR group. You can contact your local county extension office or contact us. We can help you find a new home for that animal.
Wow, and how humane that is to do instead of releasing it and having that kind of an impact. Doc, thanks for today.
Sure.
What a pleasure to be with you again. I hope you all enjoyed this and learned some things you can do and not do with those native and non-native fish. Well, y'all know what to do while you're online learning more about those fish and aquatic nuisance species. Check out the Farm Monitor Facebook page, see what's going on there, and the Ranger Nick Facebook page. And until next time, for the Farm Monitor, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you, as I always do, that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you right back here again next month. See ya.
Up next, community forester Seth Hawkins on how to assess various types of trees and the certain risk factors you could be facing on your property as we speak. Stay tuned.
Hey everyone, Seth Hawkins, Community Forester with the Georgia Forestry Commission here. Welcome to another episode of our Ask the Arborist Tree Care video series. Today we're going to be talking about tree risk assessment in your backyard so you can start to understand what defects make a tree either risky or not as risky and start to understand your mitigation options for tree risk you might have on your property. So we're going to look at a couple trees, talk about some common tree defects we see, talk about how that affects tree risk in your community and in your backyard. So we're here looking at this lovely swamp chestnut oak we got here. You know, the tree looks healthy, the foliage all looks great and fine. There are, however, some defects that are pretty common tree defects on this tree that make it more likely to fail. So the first thing we'll look at is the root system. The one thing you'll notice here is just all these circling roots. These roots that are just wrapped around the root plate of this tree. Probably a function of soil compaction outside of that rooting zone. It's just easier for the roots to wrap around. The problem with that being is you kind of get all the weight of the tree kind of balanced on one central point. Trees really like to grow their roots way out and anchor themselves with a lot of surface tension outward. So when you have this issue with all these circling roots, that makes this tree much more susceptible to wind throw. And if you see mushroom growth like this at the base of your tree or anywhere right around the base in the root system, that's a pretty big red flag that there's fungal decay within the root system of this tree and in the stem of this tree. These mushrooms on the outside are the reproductive organ for the fungal decay that's inside the tree. But again, when you have fungus exposed around your root plate or right at the stem of your tree, it's a really big red flag that there's something going on inside the tree, again, making it more likely for failure. So we've established the defects in the root system of this tree and at the base of the tree that make it more susceptible to whole tree failure. After that, we start kind of moving up the tree, and we're going to start assessing the crown and the structural issues of the tree and looking for things that could make it more likely for partial tree failure or tree part failure. So the big thing that I see when I look at the structure of this tree is where we have these two codominant stems and that really tight branching angle right there. You have the formation of what we call included bark right here. So included bark has no structural integrity, it doesn't hold the tree together or anything. In fact, can serve as a spacer to push these two stems apart over time. You'll also notice if you look closely this crack that's running down from the start of that included bark down the stem. It's hard to know how exactly deep that crack goes, but that is kind of a red flag that we need to be paying attention to this codominant stem in union here. So as you can see, this tree we were just talking about and looking at all those defects actually make this tree pretty likely to fail in a high wind or a storm event. However, it's important to understand the concept of tree risk and needing a defective tree likely to fail coupled with target occupancy of that area. So as you can see around this tree, there's no structures, there's no parking spaces, there's no real target occupancy for this tree. So if this tree did fail, its only real targets would be other trees around it. So when you start talking about risk, you have to couple, again, those defects with that target occupancy and the value of those targets. So we're going to go look at another tree that also has some defects and has a little bit more target occupancy, so should result in a higher tree risk rating for that tree. So I wanted to talk about this tree just to show another example of a major tree defect. You can see we have a really bad fungal decay pocket in this big old water oak, which is kind of par for the course for them. They're not great compartmentalizers. So it's important to consider species when you're doing your tree risk assessments. The real main point I wanted to make with this tree, there's parking spots, people hang out in the shade a lot. So when you start considering that higher target occupancy rate than we had on the other tree, paired with this major tree defect here, this tree would actually come out with a much higher risk rating than the first tree we talked about, again, due to this defect and that higher target occupancy rate. Okay, y'all, so we've looked at some common tree defects that I as an arborist see commonly that can increase the likelihood of failure for trees. We've also talked about target occupancy rate and how that affects tree risk. For more information on these topics, please visit our website, gatrees.org. There's a lot of resources on tree risk and several other tree care topics. And also visit the Ask the Arborist webpage. You can submit questions and pictures about trees in your backyard so you can start to establish the amount of risk you might have there. So thanks for watching today, and we will see y'all in the next episode.
Seth, thanks so much, and as always, thank you for making the show possible.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. Stay safe and have a great week.